value creation in health is an important issue for any government these days. There are very important opportunities in this area, and Portugal is in the way of looking into these opportunities as well. We have a lot of talk in Portugal about investing more in knowledge, investing more in universities, and what are the results in terms of innovation and in terms of economic returns of this knowledge creation. I would like to give 2 or 3 thoughts about this. The first one is that when you build a more solid knowledge base, you don't get innovation in the same day. Developing a patent takes 6, 8 years. Sometimes you can do it faster, sometimes you can do it much slower than that. And getting returns from that patent can take some more years, 20 years in some cases, 25 since the beginning of the research. So we have to look at the process that we started in terms of building a better knowledge stock that is quite recent, and look at the returns in the correct time frame and not in the short run. If you look short run, we are not looking at the right place to see the returns on the innovation. But I will go further than this. This would be, oh, that's a very good excuse. In a lot of cases, people talk about, well, our universities, we invested more in our universities and our universities improved. 10 years ago, we didn't have any university in the top 500 in the world. Now we have several universities, and we have several areas of universities like engineering and so on that show up even in the top 100 in the world. We have 3 universities in the top 100 in the world with less than 50 years, which means that the universities where we invested and that we invested and had no history compete quite well in the world with universities that had no history. And the established universities in the world, most of them are more than 50 years, because it takes 2 or 3 generations of professors generating PhDs and what sometimes it's called in science grandsons and sons in terms of research, to generate a high-level university. So it takes time. But this is, again, sounds a bit like an excuse. So let's look at the economic results. If you look at Innovation Scoreboard, what you see is that we increased the inputs in terms of number of PhDs, and we got academic results, a huge increase in publications and in the quality of publications. But in the number of patents is still quite low. And this is a way of looking at the economic results of innovation that is quite correct for a country that has a lot of pharmaceutical industry, which Portugal has some, but doesn't have a lot. If you look at other areas where innovation may have had some results in terms of economic results, where would you look? And if you look at the pattern of exports, our pattern of exports changed a lot. Not to high technology sectors, but from low technology sectors to middle and high technology sectors. And if we think that the academic system with the number of engineers and so on that had put outside of the university didn't have any impact in these, okay, we can think that, but the impact is there, and a lot of these investments could only come to Portugal because we had a better qualified labor force, and not just in numbers, but in quality. And this is recognized by a lot of people. I'm in office only for 5 months now, and I've been inaugurating investments in Portugal, for instance of Bosch, of Altice, and of other firms in aeronautics and so on, that had a strong component of research. And this was not happening 10 years ago. So a lot of these investments make sense today and have made sense in the last years because Portugal has more capability of innovation, has a better qualified labor force, has improved this innovation capability. If you look at the results again, we're talking about exports. And one interesting thing is that when the research started coming to the universities in 95 to 2010, there was an increase in resources going to the universities. There was a part of this period that was stagnant in terms of growth of exports. So again, the economic results don't seem to be there. But if you look again, what you see is that from 2005 to 2015, we had a period of exports where our exports grew above the average of the European Union. Our exports grew in line with the growth of Germany or the Netherlands, which in terms of countries that are in the European Union for some years, not a new entrant, was one of the best performance in the European Union. And again, when you look at the sectors where the exports had grown, these sectors included two types of ideas where innovation came in a very strong way. First, middle high technology sectors that need more engineering were some of the sectors where foreign direct investment came and had an important impact. Second, traditional sectors changed a lot what they produced, and these had to do a lot with innovation. So if you want to look at the impact in terms of innovation, and you look only to macro things, you don't see a lot of impact, or maybe you start seeing some impact. But if you look a bit deeper and a bit more inside sectors, what you see is that a lot of investment in innovation occurred in traditional sectors, and traditional sectors are exporting today things that are completely different from what they were. If you think of what happened in the shoe industry, where the price was the 12th highest price in the world, and the exports were decreasing because that price was overpriced, and now we have the second highest price in the world and exports are growing, how did we went from one thing to the other without innovation? That's my question. And nobody can explain me that. And the thing is that how many patents did we have in shoe fabric? Maybe zero. Who cares? Innovation in shoes is much more about design, using new materials, quality, innovation in the process, producing with better quality. And this has nothing to do with patents. And the same thing happened in the software industries, where we have several companies that are strong exporters. None of these firms had a single patent. They have intellectual rights, and these intellectual rights count. The exports of technological services has boosted in the last years, no patents. So we have to be careful about evaluation of the impact of innovation. We had a strong change in the traditional sectors. We had innovative sectors that grew. Pharmaceuticals and healthcare was one of these sectors, but it's still quite small when compared with other European countries. And of course, we have an important increase in middle technology sectors that have to do with this innovation as well. Why am I telling such a long story about this? Because this has a lot to do with where and what kind of policy we need for innovation. We are talking a lot about universities and firms. We need a better interaction between universities and firms. And I want to create, and we are creating in the Economic Ministry, along with the Science Ministry, incentives that are in the middle, that are between universities and firms, to put them working together. But this is only one part of what we should do. Another important part is also using more and using better the universities to build better public policy. And that is something that is quite important and has been done in the last years. Peter Barros has been involved in all the discussions that I've seen about improving the health sector. So we have a very efficient and high-quality health sector in Portugal, and I think there's a lot of things to improve as well in this health sector for sure. But Peter Barros and the discussions that he has been involved had an important contribute. I think more of this involvement in public policy is very positive. But our policy in terms of innovation has to do, of course, with building better links between universities and firms, also building better universities for disruptive innovation with startups, and entrepreneurship is going around the world. Startups are booming, and not only in Portugal, but in a lot of other places. And it's not about being involved with the startups or saying that the government should do things that the startups are doing. It's much more about the ecosystem, about the infrastructures that support the startups that today are very dispersed. Some of them are very well organized, but some of them are not organized at all, and some of them are not providing much services to the firms that are there. What we want is more startups, but it's mostly that more of the startups can have a process that led them to produce innovation and to produce value. We don't want startups that continue to be startups, that continue to be small firms. We want startups that grow. And we have some examples in Portugal that are quite interesting, mostly in software, but we have a very big potential in health and life sciences that is still a potential. And I think this is one of the greatest challenges. The problem with health and life sciences is that after the first stage, usually you need huge investments. And this is where all these firms die. So mostly what we need is big investors. Mostly what we need is a more open ecosystem to foreign investors. We insisted that in the venture capital funds that we are launching, foreign investors can use this money. We also insist that instead of using the old system where a public institution chooses the right technology, and this right technology has to find some private money to match the public money, we want to do it the other way around. We want to find good investors, and we want it to be the investors to choose the firms, to choose the projects that they think can have a right technology, but more than having a right technology, they have the right path to the market. And this is a very important change, because in the first case you get technologies that are very interesting. In the second case, you get innovations that can have a future in the market, that can lead to firms that are successful. Even in some cases, and I enjoyed this idea of disruptive and non-disruptive, even if in a lot of these cases we have disrupted new firms that don't have very high technology new solutions. We prefer that to very interesting technology that doesn't lead to any new firm. We don't prefer that in theoretical terms, and I think this is the difference between universities and firms. For universities, it's very interesting to research things that are that don't lead in a shortcut to economic value, and this should be done by universities. But if we're talking about venture capital is not about that. That is research capital or research grants, and we have a lot of research grants in Europe, and we should use research grants for that. So this is a change in the vision that we have for venture capital, and it's not a vision or something that we want to do, it's something we already launched, and it's 460 million of venture capital and capital for business angels that we expect to change and to give better opportunities to startups in Portugal. A second idea that I think is quite strong in universities and firms, and I enjoy a lot what Daniel said about the problems in language. Problems in language between the academic language and the firms are even higher in sectors where firms tend to be smaller and with managements that are less qualified. So, okay, we need to have an approach and to work and to build on creating these links, and this has to do with language. But one of the things we need to do is what has been done all over the world, especially in the most successful developed countries in innovation, which is invest in the translators. And where are the translators? The translators are the intermediate institutions that use knowledge to build technology in the firms. And we have several of these technological centers that have been abandoned in public policy in the last years, and not in the last 4 years, unfortunately, much longer than that. They exist. They do a very interesting job in promoting better techniques of production, in improving quality in the firms, but a lot of these centers have very, very few resources. We had a meeting last week with Fraunhofer, Carnot, TNO, with all these technology centers. And when you look at the budget, when you look at the resources that Germany, the Netherlands, France, or England puts in these intermediate institutions that are there to translate knowledge into technology and innovation and work directly with firms, you see there's a big gap that we are not going to be able to fill in these 4 years, but that we want to at least do some steps here, and we are working with these technological centers, because it is these technological centers that can make the change, especially in the industrial sectors, especially in the exporting sectors. In life sciences and healthcare, there's a lot of interesting opportunities. We constituted a group with the health cluster. We didn't invent new institutions. We are working with the existing ones and with the health ministry, and we are working on ideas to promote the pharmaceutical industry, the medical devices, ambient-assisted living, personalized medicine, and also health tourism. In each of these sectors there are interesting opportunities, and there's an interesting role that the public procurement can have, that the public institutions can have in helping proving concepts. We have seen interesting opportunities, for instance, in diagnostic. A lot of biotechnology firms now are bringing new diagnostic, new ways of diagnosis that are quite interesting, that are easy to invest because they don't need huge investments like testing a new drug. And we are seeing a couple of examples of new drugs and new molecules produced in Portugal that are already getting to the clinical trials and are already doing their way and creating value. Some of them creating value, only 1 or 2 examples, but there's 2 or 3 or 4 more examples that may get to the last stages and make profit and create value. We have come a long way already in Portugal in these areas, and I think the role of the economic ministry that I've seen in this area is to cooperate with the science minister and put money, put effort, put incentives between universities and firms, and also between universities and public institutions. Cooperation of universities with public institutions and firms is very important. This should be done directly, this should be done also through these intermediate institutions that can translate knowledge into technology and innovation. This is what we are doing with this program that we have that we call Capacitar, which is a program of technology transfer. This is also what we are doing with the better support for startups that can bring disruptive innovation and can produce very interesting new projects that are already happening, but what we want is to make sure that more of these firms are successful. This is also what we are doing in this cooperation with the Health Ministry that I think is going to open some doors to some of these startups and some of these firms that have new solutions that can be tested in Portugal and can then be proved in terms of concept and become exporting and successful firms. This is my wish. I hope you have a very good discussion here today, and I will finish by thanking again the opportunity to come to my old university, my alma mater, where I learned so much and where I hope I can bring some new ideas once in a while. Thank you very much.